Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Very Factual Podcast. We're your hosts, Kayla.
And Isabella, and we saw the Premier League title race heat up once more this weekend as Liverpool dropped some very important points against Manchester United.
Yes, so it was a very anticipated game. Manchester United played top team Liverpool and shockingly tied it up 2-2. As expected, Liverpool opened up the scoring in the 23rd minute and went into halftime at a 1-0 lead. But just 5 minutes after the second half begun, Bruno Fernandes tied it up for United. Then in the 67th minute, United scored again, giving them the lead and lighting up the stadium with fans cheering everywhere. However, just before the 90th minute hit, a penalty was awarded to Arsenal because of an illegal slide by Wan-Bissaka and was taken by Mo Salah, giving Liverpool their tying goal. United kept trying to push for a final goal, but luck wasn't on their side completely, and they ended up with 1 point on each team for the league table.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, I I something I noticed every time Man United played Liverpool is that Old Trafford is a place where Liverpool always struggle. And I feel like this has been going on. I feel like ever since the rivalry kind of begun, if you look at all kind of like the stats and the previous matches, like no matter how good Liverpool are, no matter how good of a season they're having, they always show their vulnerabilities at Old Trafford. It's kind of like a curse, and
Mhm.
it's something I noticed. And I guess I was shocked just because I really thought they should win, because they were top of the table, not anymore, and I just kind of found it shocking.
I mean, honestly, I agree. I completely expected Liverpool to win, but also the environment at Old Trafford is like something that you've never seen before against Liverpool because it's been like the
Mhm.
history of the two teams. There, it's a rival, and whichever stadium they're at, it's always a lively experience for the
Mhm.
home stadium. So it's very like I want to say pressure for the
Yes.
opposing team. So Liverpool, whenever they're there, it's very difficult for them to get a result out of it. Sure, they got 1 point, but you would have expected so much better. But then again, United sometimes like does just randomly show up and bring their
Mhm.
best game, and this definitely was not their best. They could have
No.
done better. But they did show up and they did try their best and they did get some sort of a result.
Yeah, we saw a couple weeks ago when United beat Liverpool in the FA Cup. It was kind of like the same game. It was like, we expected Liverpool to come, put a dominant performance in, but this game was kind of like uh it was almost like a match of tennis. It was like there were certain parts of Liverpool, they had the advantage, and then Man United, they had the advantage, and just went back and forth. And now Liverpool and Arsenal are tied top of the table because Liverpool dropped points. And I really believe that the fate of this title race is in Liverpool's hands. I think they just really hold that key, and I still think they are favorites. And I just, like I said earlier, I think this is just kind of like that Old Trafford curse. I think it's like a one-off result, and I think next game they'll bounce back.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have a very high chance at that title. I
Mhm.
mean, like looking at the stats, you can see Liverpool had 28 shots, but only 7 were on target, but
Mhm.
United did have only 9 shots on Liverpool's net. Not even on target, like just in the general
Yeah.
area. So that's like I don't know, like double, triple. So
Mhm.
Liverpool definitely has had their chances in this game. They just didn't weren't able to fully take them.
Yeah, I did. I don't think they took their opportunities in this game at all. Like I feel like Mo Salah and Darwin Nunez look out of form, and I feel like I guess the blame kind of comes down to them. Like it felt like a rerun of the FA Cup game because Liverpool also couldn't take their opportunities in that game, and it just kept going back and forth. And like this lack of form, especially for their forward players, has come at like the worst possible time. Like this is crunch time. Like this is the time of the season where you need to put in results, and they just need to get over it.
Yeah, they just really have to like focus on the game and not the other team, just how they're playing.
Yeah, and also In the beginning of the game, Liverpool, I think they started off well. I think they had the advantage, but then Jarell Konsa, he made a mistake. I don't even know what he was trying to do. Like, he tried to pass back, but the goalkeeper wasn't there, and he just ended up assisting Bruno Fernandes. And, Bruno just took the advantage, took the shot, and that's where they kind of got rattled. And they just weren't the same team. And I think they can get over maybe like this result and this kind of lack of form because they haven't looked bad this season. So I think they can put something together because Liverpool, they're not in the Champions League, they're in the Europa League, and that's quite easy for Liverpool against the teams they have. And Arsenal and City, they have some tough Champions League opponents coming up later this week. So I think Liverpool might be able to take advantage of that.
I mean, I hope they do.
Me too. Chelsea's inconsistencies continue as they manage to give up another lead, drawing Sheffield United 2-2. Chelsea would open the scoring with a goal by Thiago Silva. Jayden Bogle then equalized for Sheffield in the 32nd minute. The second half pretty much followed the same pattern, with Nani Madueke putting Chelsea back in the lead, but Sheffield's late stoppage time equalizer won them the game, gaining a point each. We're back to reality. The United game midweek, we didn't cover it, but it was Man United Chelsea. It was 4-3. It gave me a false sense of hope. I don't know if it was just because it was United, but I was very happy with that result. I think we ended it well. And on paper, if you look at these two sides, if you just see the names Chelsea and Sheffield United, Chelsea, they should have won this game. Clear.
Easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Sheffield are literally going to be relegated, and I don't know. I don't even know what to say because I say the same thing about them every single week.
I feel like it's so repetitive. Like Chelsea, they just bring disappointment to the table.
Oh, yes.
That's all they are at this point. Sheffield had more shots in general. And they had more shots on target. And Chelsea, they dominated possession, yeah, but what's possession when you still tie it up to a relegated team? It's nothing at this point.
Yeah, it's we always let teams get one back. We get a goal, but then we have to let them have one. It's just no, we have to keep a clean sheet. And we, like you said, we had 67% possession, and we only had 6 shots, and it's disappointing, and it's kind of unacceptable because we cannot keep the same consistent pressure throughout a game. It's so bad. And
Chelsea, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Chelsea has had this up and down during their games all the time. They're in the lead and they lose it. They're in the lead and they lose it. They're in the lead and then they lose it. It just so happened that they lost their lead in added time, the final 90 minutes, so they couldn't gain it back. But it happens all the time. Well, if they're losing by a goal, then that end up usually tying it up at the end or just barely losing. And if they're winning by a goal, they'll end up tying it at the end or just barely winning. And that's just been a common thing with Chelsea this season. They can't hold onto their, lead.
Yeah, it's I wasn't even surprised. Once I saw we were leading 2-1, I knew it would end in a tie. I was there's no way we can keep this. I knew we were going to screw up again. We can't take advantage of anything. And you watch other teams in the Premier League and they pounce on teams' mistakes. They just take advantage of when they have the advantage, and we just watch. I want to highlight some positives, but there was really none in this game because we literally should have won against Sheffield United. And if you didn't know who these teams were, you would probably think they were in similar league positions. And it's just really disappointing from Chelsea once again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If I saw this and I knew nothing about the sport or this league, I'd be oh, they're probably close to each other on the table. It's probably a good game. Well, no, it was a very disappointing game. Arsenal played Brighton on Saturday and expectingly won 3-0. The first goal was scored by Saka in a penalty and ending the half 1-0. When the second half begun, Brighton came out strong, but not strong enough because Kai Havertz brought down their confidence with another goal for Arsenal in the 62nd minute. With their comfortable lead, Arsenal still wanted another goal to really secure their win, and Trossard provided in the 86th minute. Arsenal, I have to say, they really dominated this game, even though they didn't have domination over possession. Like I mentioned before, it's not possession that's key to the game. They
Mhm.
really took control of the game with the 3 points that they deserved.
Yeah, I want to kind of highlight one individual player, Kai Havertz.
Yes,
He looked good in this
he did.
game, and I am very surprised how good he's been for Arsenal. Like I don't think any of us really expected him to be as good as he's been. He has the most goal involvements than any other player in the Premier League, which is surprising.
I would not have expected that from Kai
Yeah.
Havertz, especially judging by how he was at Chelsea. He didn't really like
Mhm.
shine there. He was good. He had his moments, but he also had like pretty bad moments there. And now that he's
Yeah.
moved here, he's had an impact on Arsenal, which is good to see.
Yeah, and he was supposed when Arteta brought him in, he was supposed to play in the midfield, but he plays as a striker now, and it's kind of like what happened at Chelsea too. And I think now he's doing at Arsenal what Chelsea thought they were buying, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
like this is the player that Chelsea thought he was going to be for them.
I just think he didn't fit into Chelsea. And
Yeah.
we always talked about a few episodes ago how Spurs had this style of play that was super unique. But I think the more that I'm looking at Chelsea, Chelsea also has a unique style of play that you need to
Mhm.
fit in. Maybe not style of play, but also environment more than style of play.
Mhm.
Because if he did not fit, like Kai Havertz, he clearly did not fit into that environment. But now that he moved somewhere else, he's that player again that Chelsea, like you said, thought they were buying.
Yeah, and Brighton, they haven't been the best this season. Like you kind of expected Arsenal to get a result. Like that was you expected them to win this game. Also, there was a penalty Arsenal received. I believe it was the second goal. I'm not sure though. It was
No, it was
whenever
the penalty. Wait, yeah, it
I
was no, it was the
believe.
first goal. It was the first goal
Okay.
by Saka. Yeah.
I don't think it should have counted
No, yeah.
because Gabriel Jesus, he knew what he was doing. He is probably one of the biggest divers in the Premier League. Like there was barely any contact. Like it wasn't really fair. Like in the live game, right? If you're just watching the game and that happens, it looks like a penalty, right? But once you take a look at other angles and kind of slow it down, you can see there was clearly nothing. Like he's so soft and I hate that. It like annoys me.
Yeah, it's kind of like it was like a false penalty. I mean, Arsenal would have won one way or another,
Yeah.
but it's just like the way that they got that first goal to kind of boost their confidence isn't,
Mhm.
wasn't a
Yeah.
real goal, I want to say.
Yeah, it happens a lot in the Premier League, but whatever. I
It is how
think
it is.
yeah, Arsenal also, they're probably one of the best teams in the league right now. Like we said, there's like that three-team title race. They barely concede. They're great away from home. They have great attack, great defense, and like I said earlier, I think even though Arsenal are really good, the title is going to come down to Liverpool. It resides in their hands, and Arsenal, if they want to win it, they just got to continue playing the way they play.
Yeah, I feel like for title race, City still has a chance, but I don't know so much if they're gonna win it. They're gonna have to really put in
Mm-hmm.
their all to get it. But I think that it's gonna be a really, really tight race between Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. But I think it's gonna be really tight between Arsenal and Liverpool if I were to pick two.
Yeah, and speaking of Manchester City, they earned a comfortable win on Saturday, coming back to beat Crystal Palace 2-4. City would have an early scare as Jean Mateta would net early in the fourth minute. However, the lead lasted shortly with Kevin De Bruyne equalizing in the 13th minute. Then, shortly after halftime, Man City would find their feet with goals coming from Rico Lewis, Erling Haaland, and Kevin De Bruyne once again. Edouard would then get a late goal for Crystal Palace, but it wasn't enough as City continued with their title challenge. It was a very dominant, like typical City performance. I would say it was a very mature performance by Manchester City. They did what they had to do. They recouped after that early goal. They didn't let that bring them down, unlike Liverpool. Um, it wasn't always perfect, but they kept calm and they got it done.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, they dominated all the stats, 18 shots, 8 on target, 76% possession. And even though like they came out and I'm pretty sure they were thinking, okay, we're gonna take it slow because this is against
Mhm.
Crystal Palace. But the second Crystal Palace scored that goal, I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call for City, and City was like, oh, we
Yeah.
gotta really actually try in this game. And that's what they did. Kevin De Bruyne, Rico Lewis, like you said, Holland, they all were like, oh, easy goals. Not easy,
Mhm.
but goals 4-2. And Crystal Palace clearly tried to get like some sort of a win back. I want to say they didn't
Mhm.
give up all the way through like we see happen when teams play against City, especially when it's a 4-1 lead, like it was
Mhm.
at some point. Usually teams would start to give up with like 5 minutes left, but Crystal Palace didn't, so I got to give them some credit for that.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne was definitely the man of the match. He was the star guy. His first goal was incredible.
Hmm.
And it was very like Kevin De Bruyne like. I that's not like a but
But
that's
yeah,
the
like
only way I could
it's
like
his
say it.
style. It was very his style.
Yeah, I think he's a player that you cannot leave open because he will produce something and we saw that he was contributing all over the field and it's just he's a really good player. And maybe he hasn't been as good as in previous seasons, but I still think he's one of City's like top players.
I agree. I mean, City has a lot of those players that you
Mhm.
can't just leave open, like Holland and De Bruyne. Like they have so many people and there's so many options on the bench even that you can just sub in. There'll always be at least two players on that field that you cannot leave open, which poses a challenge for the opposing team, and that's always why City has a bit of a, I want to say, lead without
Mhm.
even scoring any goals yet.
Yeah, and they got 4 goals in this game. And I think the forward line, they kind of hid the defensive mistakes. I think it's like all season they really did that. I think their defense has been like the weakest part. And it's kind of surprising because last year their defense was amazing. And just the players, they look tired. They don't really know how to recover. And this season, that's probably their most like vulnerable position. They have struggled keeping clean sheets. Like we saw, they let in a goal in the 4th minute, and that's very unlike City. And they just need to learn how to control that, especially since they play Real Madrid in the Champions League on was it Tuesday or Wednesday? And it's just they need to clean that up fast.
Yeah, they do. They really do. But like, I mean, other than that, they've been doing pretty well. I want to
Mhm.
say there's nothing. Do have to pick up their game a little bit if they want to like
Mhm.
really pose a huge threat for the title. They are going to pose a threat, but like I said before, it's going to be between Liverpool and Arsenal, I think, at this point.
Mhm.
But it's going to be close. They're definitely going to be in the top three for sure.
Yeah, another thing that it's not really a problem, I guess. It would be amazing if other teams had this problem, but you have that Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden kind of dilemma. They've been performing this season. You can't play them at the same time because we know they both kind of like playing in that same position, and you can't really have two number 10s. I think if you want to play them in the same team, especially against Real Madrid, I think that would be great. I think you could put
Hmm.
Kevin De Bruyne as like that number 10 where he always plays in Phil Foden. We've seen him produce on the wings, even if he doesn't prefer it. If it's not his preferred position, you kind of have to suck it up sometimes. And um, I think that's a way they could kind of solve that. It's not even a problem. Like, it's just
Yeah.
you kind of have to fit the pieces of the puzzle together. And they just, they just have to try to cover their mistakes, do the best they can, work together for the last month of the season or so, and yeah, we'll see what can happen.
Yeah, it's more of an inconvenience for City than anything else. But I
Mhm.
mean, that's all we have for today, I think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so don't forget to follow our Instagram and YouTube at Very Factual Podcast.